We'll call the meeting to order at 5:30. Is there any public comment? Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Need to approve the minutes of Tuesday, June 10th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, so moved. Board correspondence and communication. You guys are making this easy. Public comments again. Okay, Jamie, it's on to you now. Can
All
we make it
right,
exciting?
look, we are moving right along. So some of the board members may wonder, what is all the public here tonight? And there was no public comment, and we provided for 2. We have 12 members from UVM here with us tonight, and their advisor, and Mary Shell. We also have the chair of the Lincoln School District Board with us. They're all on the agenda tonight. I just was able to see their presentation that you're going to receive under the Celebration of Learning number 8. I expected that presentation is going to take about 30 minutes with questions and answers from you. So just so the board has a timeline, the goal would be that we try to get through the rest of the agenda within an hour, if possible. If we run over, we'll just start our district meetings late. And so in regards to my superintendent report, you have my written report. Within the written report, I wanted to just point out that under agenda item number 9.1, you'll see this idea of a proclamation. This was modeled after model language that was provided to us by the RSCA. We also had 3 board members join the RSCA today for an update and summer meeting. So under 9.1, there could be some conversation that's had there as well. I was in attendance at the MAP Task Force meeting on Friday in person. In regards to the kickoff of that work, I felt like the task force was asking the right questions in general. I think that they understand that there's a great deal of work in front of them to meet the concept of having up to 3 maps, of one of which needs to include supervisory unions as a viable educational structure, and that they need to provide that by December 1st. So their timeline's quite dense. It will be important, if we can't get to a proclamation tonight, that we work hard to get to one sooner rather than later, because I'd like our board chair and vice chair to be able to submit that to the task force sooner rather than later. In general, I started my board report off with this. It's become clearer and clearer to me, we really are open year-round for business. We've had students or teachers in our buildings every week throughout the summer, and engaging in our community work in regards to our 12 interns supporting both SU work but community partner work. It's exciting work, it's fulfilling work, and I've always said that in the summer is where we do our strategic planning in order to be able to launch the plan for the upcoming school year, because if you do that strategic planning with your leadership teams across the SU buildings and districts, with your principals that have been hard at work doing with central office administrators, we then have a clear direction for the work ahead. And we know there's going to be distractions, but if we've done the planning and work over the summer, we don't allow those distractions to stop us in our work of continuous improvement. And so I would say to you, I feel really good about the work that's happened this summer in order to steer us ahead in order to continue our continuous momentum and improvement as an organization. I also wanted to highlight today that for the first time in, it's going on 6 years almost, I actually did a presentation. I used to present quite a bit on multi-tier systems of support and comprehensive systems with Michaela Martin, our MTSS coordinator in my past life as a principal. And today I had the chance to present our work in regards to literacy with the Literacy League. And we had about 170 people sign up for that presentation. And I highlighted the work of the board to support the system in order for us to leverage our work to improve student outcomes. So I'll share those slides with you, because you have an important role in regards to strategic planning and the accountability measures and benchmarks that you put in place to support our work in order for that work to take hold as a system. So I just wanted to highlight that to all you and say that that was a pleasure to have the opportunity to do that for an hour today and to reflect on how far we've come as a system in regards to strategic planning, accountability, and improving outcomes for students. Otherwise, I'll entertain any questions folks may have.
Yeah, quick question. Going back to the task force, can you remind us what the target number of students per district they're looking at is supposed to be?
Yeah, it's approximately within reason. That's not the language in the law, right? But as reasonable, 4,000 to 8,000 per SD or SU. It's important that you realize that that is an or, because we worked really hard to ensure that if an SU was 4,000, had multiple districts within an SU boundary, that would meet the intent of the law.
So here's the comment. I got sucked into a web page today.
Oh, I know which one.
You're right. So I'm happy to share with the rest of the board, but there is online a tool. I don't know who created it, but it's someone within the state where you can create your own district, and it has the actual number of students that each town brings to the district. And you can pretend to be king for a day and create your own districts if you want. But it is a fascinating, helpful tool.
Oh, it'd be great to share that, Eric.
Yeah, happy to.
Stacy?
I just wanted to add, I was with Sarah and Michael today at the RSCA gathering, where it was brought up that this tool that Eric has mentioned may be out of date. So it looks like the data, at least in some districts, is a couple of years out of date. So your mileage may vary. But it was advice for us to have a look and definitely keep in mind or flag any errors.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah.
During the task force meeting, the state did say that was based off of FY24 average daily membership. And remember, it's a 2-year rolling average. So it would make sense that some of that data might not look like relevant to where we are currently right now.
Sarah?
The law also has exceptions in it for the size of the district, which is the sparsity and geographical provision in there, so that there is there for districts or SUs to be smaller than 4,000 to 8,000.
Now you said something about 3 maps, Jamie. So
Up to 3 maps. So they need to present. They can present up to. They can't have more than 3, but they could have 1 with SUs. And it's important for the board to remember this is a report that will go to the legislature. The legislature can then take that report and use it to inform their work, but it doesn't mean that those are the final 3 maps that they may be voting on.
And it goes to the ed committees for both the House and the Senate prior to the whole legislation, doesn't it?
That's my understanding.
any more questions for Jamie or comments?
There's a long road to go. And one of the good things about this bill is if a map is not settled on this session, the implementation of the rest of the law stops. So it's important that we stay as attuned to this work as we have throughout the prior legislative session, and that we are making certain that we are prepared if we need to ramp up advocacy, that we're prepared to do so quickly and swiftly.
All right. Anda.
Happy summer. It's good to see you all. You all have my report. There's a lot of focus in there on the professional learning that we have been doing this summer, including into the week that we come back with all staff. We've got a lot of rich learning happening there. We've been doing a lot of work on chronic absenteeism, really bolstered by the intern that we had the pleasure of working with this summer. You'll hear more from her in a little while, but Michaela Martin and I have been really thinking a lot about that. Michaela's been doing most of that. And so you'll see also some of at the end of my report, a summary of some of that work and how we're thinking about that. I will just also say, it's not in the report, but the summer has been very distracted by a lot of funding changes at the federal level. So we are still working on finalizing our grants for that. We've been told not to submit them yet because of various things that got held up in Washington. So just be aware of that. It shouldn't stop anything from operating, but we are working really hard to get everything back in place that wasn't in place due to those holdups. So just as a board to be aware of that. And the last piece is every new school year we have great new hires that we work to pair with mentors in our buildings who can help them get oriented to their school, WVRSU, the content that they are working with and whatever roles they are. So we've been spending this summer led by Principal Lindy Stetson to train all of our mentors and make sure they're ready to take on that big role, which we hope both makes the year go really well for our teachers and students and contributes to our goal of higher retention from year to year of our educators. So that's been a big focus this summer. We've sort of pivoted that a little and really thinking a lot more about the mentors as being that one of those big connectors with the new hires, since they can see them every day. And so that's been a big piece of work this summer to shift that and really strengthen that piece. So happy to talk about anything that's in the report or not.
Questions for Anna, anyone?
Easy crowd tonight.
Oh, nope.
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it.
Anna, are mentors provided for both new hires that are experienced and new teachers, or just for the new teachers?
Oh, terrific question. So both folks who are brand new to the profession and folks that are brand new to our system, as well as folks who may be in their second year and may have a really big role and so may need additional extra support in particular areas. We think about mentors both being provided to help with content, like what you're teaching or what you're doing, and or kind of climate and culture. How does this building or this system work? So sometimes mentors will just focus on one of those or on both of them. But we try to get as much information on the front end to match folks to those various roles.
Thank you.
I'm always really curious about capstone type projects, and you had a retreat. Can you just tell us a little bit about how that went and what your hopes and desires are?
So we held the capstone retreat in the middle of July, which is not always the most popular time for teachers to come back. Sometimes they're ready to go in June and ready to go again in August. We had a great group of folks join us. It was sort of the brainchild of our librarian and flexible pathways teacher at Sharon, Meg Hopkins, who did a lot of work on their capstone this year to get that really off the ground, which is, and so she helped think through what might other buildings need in her own building. And the most successful groups were teams from schools that came and had a chance to think through what are the goals, what resources do we have within our building, how do we timeline, how we plan a timeline out through the end of the year to get to those goals, and then sharing across the buildings, because we have capstones happening. At the end of this, we'll be in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade, depending on what school you're at. And so those look all a little bit different, but can help inform each other depending on what developmental and academic skills our students have. So it was really fun. We had a great outside facilitator who thinks about this really well and set up really good prompts for our teachers to think about in terms of how do we develop something that gets at those portrait of a learner attributes that you all helped work on, or at least are aware of now, and have a way for our students to show how they're progressing towards proficiency in all of those at different parts in there. So thank you for asking.
No, I think for the board, it'd be great to be able to see and get a sense of, as this moves along, how we examine those capstone projects as part of our way of evaluating how students are progressing. So we're not so reliant on some of the paper and pencil testing.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
Hi guys, so you have my report. It is short and sweet this time because at the time I wrote it, I had been on the job for about 3 weeks. In that time, I started off just kind of doing a listening tour around the buildings, getting to know kind of like a little bit about the culture for each of our districts and what's worked and what hasn't worked in the past. And so using some of that information to inform professional development plans going forward, we will be starting with just some kind of basic, what does an IEP look like? How do you tell that story of a student through an IEP at the beginning of the year? Really weaving that thread of disability to need to services so that we're really targeted in what we're doing. This includes building some additional methods of delivery. So one of them addressed in here, and Jamie addressed it in his report, is the formation of the Wildcat Academy. Jamie secured the space for that, so we have an alternative program for students who need more of like a hands-on learning approach in the middle to lower high school grades. And looking at how to address some of our students with more of an intellectual disability and autism profile, because the approach to learning for that can be quite different depending on their presentation and their needs. So some of that learning that I've been talking with some teams about, it will be targeted, we'll start small, but we'll look at learning progressions that include some backed out standards. So if you're thinking, on your typical rubric of like 1 through 4, not every kid can achieve a 1 as an entry point. So how can we make a 0.5? How can we make a 0? So every student has an entry point, along with some curriculum overlapping. So that's kind of what's come out of my listening tour and some of those next steps, and I'm happy to take your questions.
How are you holding up?
Good so far. It's an amazing team with some really knowledgeable people, and I'm excited that there seems to be a really good shared vision.
Anyone else? Great first report.
Thank you.
Over to the next one. Great. We are on to Tara.
Good evening, everyone. I have my report. It outlines some updates what's happening in the business office and some reminders. The one item I need volunteers for is our annual fraud inquiries of governance questionnaires for our auditors. So I need 2 volunteers from this board as well as each individual boards. And I have them with me tonight to hand out. But otherwise, I will answer any questions anyone has. It's a busy time of year.
I'll volunteer for you, Tara.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. She needed 2, she said. Who else? I'll do it. You got 2
Thank
volunteers.
you. It's really easy, and if you don't know the answer, you just put I don't know. And then when you're done with them, you send them back to Ellen.
Okay.
Do you need it from individual boards?
Yes. So I will also have them for your individual boards. We do it for all 7 entities.
All right. Any other questions for Tara? Anything else from you, Tara?
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray, Director of Technology.
Good evening. All right. Alma Start, PD, and our UVM intern. Those are the things I talked about in my report. And here we are about, let's call this 3 weeks out from school, and I wish we were in a little better position with Alma, but we've made a lot of progress recently, and I'm hopeful we're going to have things wrapped up soon. Be happy to entertain any questions from the group in person or online.
I think just for the notes, if, what is SIS, what is that acronym
Student
for?
Information System.
All right, and so ALMA is going to be the replacement of the entire way to manage the
Yep.
students.
So demographics, attendance, grades, social, emotional data, things like that.
Was this just more complicated to implement than previously expected?
If I was going to be honest, the onboarding process was lacking. Once we got past that, we were able to make some progress.
Yeah,
So
okay.
there are two people in the room here, Parker, who everybody knows, and Gretchen, our intern, who helped out tremendously over the summer, in addition to Erica Harrington from Rochester.
Any other questions for Red? Thank you, Red. Policy committee. We have first reading on policy C33K8 supervisory union choice program. That was, we had a meeting about that last night, and the group worked on it and felt we were at a point where we wanted to bring it forward to the full board. This is choice K-8 in our own supervisory union.
Reverse order.
So if you have a sibling that's in the 8th grade in South Royalton and they want to, or freshmen in South Royalton, they want all the kids to go to South Royalton because that works. It makes freedom for that within our supervisory union. Or if it's geography, it's easier for the family to get to, things like that. Anybody else want to fill in what we talked about last night?
I can speak to it. We did some clarifying of language and introducing some plainer language just for ease of reading for parents or guardians or whomever may be less familiar with the more policy framed language, and simplified some of the phrasing so that it had like a better flow and so that it was much easier to receive. I just wanted to also make a comment that it feels like a policy that does support retention of resources, and I know that's been like a concern, like if there is movement within the SU, and that it, the things that we're already doing right, and that everyone who's here before I was, part of this board, the tremendous work that has been put into that kind of sets us as an example. So when we're engaging with the legislator, it's like these are the things that are working right. I feel that this continues that forward by supporting movement and choice within kind of reasonable parameters. So.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else that was on have something they want to add? Just want to make sure you guys think we covered it all.
Yeah, I think just as people are reading through, I would note that there are sort of what I would call safeguards there to make sure that the program is being utilized reasonably. It is not impacting the different schools, and there are caps in place and discretion. There's a process to review the request. It's not just put your name in and it's approved and anybody can switch whenever and anything like that. So it's just important as you're reading through the language to definitely notice that there are those safeguards.
All right, so Michael, you have a question, and then Nancy, and then Stacy. So Michael first.
This is a first come, first served basis? Is that how this would work, to get to that 5?
Yes, unless we have more applicants, and if you see, it's a like blind lottery.
Right. And the parent has to, or the guardian has to apply. Are there circumstances we might imagine where the school would be encouraging that? Is that a possibility?
That's not what the intent of the policy is.
It's not the intent of the policy, and transportation is totally up to the family.
Unless there's current routes.
Right, we're not going to invent a new route, but you could use existing transportation again. Okay, thank you.
Nancy?
I think Dave already answered my question, that each district could put a cap on the number of students that they would accept. Was that part of it?
The policy provides a cap of 5, but then provides a bunch of provisions why a district may not accept up to 5 due to staffing concerns, that concerns about the district that the student's looking to leave and what that may do to staffing and or class size numbers. So there's safeguards in that regard.
Okay, good, thank you.
And Stacy?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in the policy section. I don't see C33 in the drive. Where can I locate that?
It was on the materials that Ray sent today.
If you look for Ray's email, it should be there. I don't know why it's not in the drive, but
That's where I saw it.
yeah, I thought it was in the drive, but.
Christy sent it this morning too.
Yeah, she sent it separate.
Okay, thank you.
And Robin?
If the child that moves is on an IEP, do we have to provide transportation then?
Well, certainly if we're already providing specialized transportation, we would continue to provide specialized transportation. I also answered this at the policy committee meeting. Special education services are an SU budgeted and supported expense that we assess out. So if a student was to go from First Branch District to Sharon District service via an IEP, those expenses are already supervisory union expenses, okay? They're not district expenses. And those are assessed out based on what we actually need to review again, because we said we were going to, is our, what we worked so hard on last year, not our bylaws. Is that bylaws? Is that what we call them?
Oh.
We just updated them, so we should bring those to our next meeting, just to review, because it does provide the parameters of how we do our assessments, and we said we would review those annually.
Yes.
So one of the.
It was bylaws.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do have a question, but somebody raised their hand, I think.
Stacy?
Yeah, I read the policy. It's not terribly long. I'm just kind of confused why we're. I understand it's about maintaining resources and whatnot, but it seems like this is opening it up for major issues. One, there's only 5, and then 2, this kind of goes against the you're going to school where you live kind of concept. It's kind of concerning to me. What is the ultimate goal with this policy?
Let me speak to it. So it came up to the policy committee meeting, Stacy, because there are provisions provided in grades 9 through 12 for statewide school choice. So this policy is modeled off of what's already in statute for students in grades 9 through 12 that can provide for a lottery to attend other public schools within the state. And if you read the provisions of the policy in regards to how average daily membership reporting occurs and how expenses occur within that state law statute around statewide school choice, it aligns to these provisions. Some boards requested the policy committee look at this because we've had some parents request to attend another member district within the SU. And the boards felt like it made sense based on that request to grant permission for that to occur, but they requested that the SU policy committee look to create a policy to create the vision around how we ought to be going about that business so that it's not parent requests to a district board, another district board approaching a district board within the SU to work out an agreement, that we should have the guiding principles of how we do this work. So based on some of those parents' requests and requests by districts within the SU, the policy committee took up drafting a policy.
And Stacy, I don't see this as being, I don't think we're going to get huge waves of kids that want to go from here to there to there. I think it's not a huge request that we get now, but it's enough of a request. It would be nice to have a policy and have parents be able to have that, since we function as one supervisory union, and all of our schools are wonderful in the district, and it would be great if it was more convenient or better for a family to be in Sharon versus being in Chelsea, if it worked better for that family to be able to have that choice.
So I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I understand that we need a policy, but what I'm saying is historically with this type of arrangement, like we just said, the parents responsible for getting them. The people that are left out with this kind of policy request are the ones that don't have the money or the parents or people to send them to these schools. So, I'm going to say the word equity. Like, there's no equity. I'm concerned with equity with this, because if you're going to offer this to someone, and I'm just going to use myself, like me, who lives on the cusp of South Royalton, who like begged for this before COVID, versus a child that doesn't have the the um the the ability to be transported, it just seems like there isn't. We need to allot for that within the policy. Is my thing, because you don't want to give people who can transport because they have parents who don't work or finances, when there's children who might need to do this who are not. So maybe can we work something in about transportation? That would be my concern, because I just want everyone to have a shot at this, as opposed to.
Well, I do think there is transportation in there. It's if you can get onto one of the routes that are already there, but I also think that if you're interested in that opportunity, you're taking that opportunity because it fits and works for your family. That's why you want to do it. So I understand the equity piece, but I also understand that there should be opportunity for everybody, and
So
not because we don't provide something.
If I may.
Yeah.
There's two discussions going on at the same time. And I don't know how to sort of get him back to the same place. There's the discussion about what is contained within the policy. And there's a discussion of, does this policy make sense? And what I'm hearing Stacy talking about is the second, does this policy even make sense? And I would suggest, Stacy, that conversation may be premature, and I am actually really looking forward to having it, because I have some of the same concerns that you do, and I am not sure that at the end of the day I would be in favor of the policy in any way that it's written. So if there are ways in which we can, as board members, help the policy committee to bring this to its best possible iteration, I think that it's incumbent upon us to offer that language and suggestions, and then we can have the debate as to whether or not it's a policy that we want to have as a SU writ large.
I'm comfortable with that.
And my concerns, or one of the concerns that I have about this scheme, is the effect it has on the school where the student is departing. And I know that there's language in here to try to address that, but when you have classes that are already 7 students, taking 1 or 2 students away from those classes for us is a big deal. So I just I have that concern, and I have that concern on top of
Right, and I
what's
think
coming
that's
from
one of
the
the
state.
things we talked about last night.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that one of the parameters is that we don't make a depleted class size so that it's not.
And that is in the second paragraph for
Right.
both the receiving and for the sending school.
Yes.
So it is a decision by both of those schools of how it's going to affect their population, their teachers, their classrooms. And so if 2 students in this class of 7, the sending school might say, no, that would affect our class too much. I'm sorry, we are denying this request.
Yes.
Right, which is going to then create a incredibly difficult situation with the student that's left behind, who was denied that transfer, and create a management difficulty for that principal. So I'm not suggesting it's not doable.
Mm-hmm.
I am suggesting there are a lot of downstream consequences with whatever it is that we decide to do here, and I'd love to be able to think through them before we take that dive, especially given what's going to come down from the state and what consequences that may have.
I also feel that we are one large family, and so sometimes it's better to go live at the aunt's house.
Not my aunt.
I'm concerned with this opening us up for lawsuits as well, this codified policy. Because, like, this I mean, of course, we have the wording non-discriminatory. Have our lawyers taken a look at this at all?
Yes.
Yes.
And they didn't have any issue with it?
We wouldn't have brought it forward, or I would have let the policy committee know what the concerns were.
And this is very similar to the high school,
State
the
statute.
state, the in
provided.
statute.
Like,
and
I read this and I see like the potential for a slippery slope and like lots of issues coming forth. But I mean, I'm not averse to looking at it in a different, once we chew on it a little more, but like
I see this policy like lots of policies that we've had go through the policy committee that needed 2, 3, 4. Sometimes we've done 5 or 6 readings. This is not a policy that I think we're approving in the next month or 2 months. I think it's a policy that needs a lot of debate and conversation from the SU board and also district boards within the SU in regards to whether or not there's an appetite to pursue it, or is it one of these things where we can try to get it as fine-tuned as possible, where folks feel comfortable. I just think we're going to have lots of conversation. I just wanted to put that out there to say the policy committee worked hard to get this to you because there is some public and boards of the membership of the SU who are interested in having this conversation. And we can't have the conversation if we didn't get out of the committee.
Right, so this is our starting point. We know there's lots more work to go.
So we currently have students who are taking advantage of the essence of this. We just don't have this documentation to codify.
We have district boards that have made agreements to allow students to go from one district in the SU to another district.
Right. And I know some of those students, and they've benefited in a number of cases enormously from that. So I'm curious. I would like to see us continue this conversation. I think transportation is a huge equity issue that we're all aware of, but I think relative to the slippery slope, the bigger slippery slope is if we don't actually have a really clear policy and procedure here. So because the requests are going to come, I think they're not frequent. I don't remember them being that way, but where needed and appropriate, they can make an enormous difference.
I just wanted to kind of reflect back just so I understand, like, so that I can get to better grips with where the equity concerns are. Just, right, that like parents or guardians that may have transportation access will have a greater capacity to be able to move a child, whereas, parents or guardians whose child might benefit from a move for whatever reasons, if they don't have transportation access, then that's an equity concern, so that it's only, okay, thank you. This helps.
Stacy?
Yeah, I mean, so when I read this, I see what looks like the beginning of school choice to specific schools. And in other states, not Vermont, that leads to a diminishing of public schools in affluent areas. Not that Vermont has like huge affluent areas or anything like that. We're all pretty much the same. So, but my concern, well, yeah, you're either rich or you're poor in Vermont. There's no middle class. But and at least that's what it said when I wrote my paper on it. So here's the thing. I'm concerned that we're going to say, okay, well, so-and-so's kid who can drive them there is going to go to, like, for example, let's just say South Royalton, and there's languages at South Royalton, and there's not languages at FBUD, at least not to the level that I like. So maybe I can bring my kid there, right? And they can get this access and the opportunity, but then a kid whose family doesn't have the ability to drive them or near a bus route that goes to South Royalton does not have the opportunity to do that my kids would. That's an equity issue. That's what I'm getting at with that aspect of it. I'm not a huge fan on the school choice thing generally, but because I think it leads to exclusion for certain things. I'd like all of our public schools to be extremely well funded and equitable. But, you know, sometimes smaller schools don't get that. And if you're going to send all the stuff, all these to big schools, which I know we have the state thing going on, then I think that there is going to be an equity issue. And potentially this might be, I don't know, this policy reads like it might be helping the state to do what we don't want them to do with our small schools.
Stacy Peters? Thanks. Thanks, Stacy, for those thoughts. I wanted to jump in because, of course, I live in a district where we have full choice and we tuition our kids in many different directions. And as such, we've faced a lot of criticism and finger pointing from the state in recent months, or from certain lawmakers and groups in recent months, suggesting that we're somehow taking advantage of that for this choice thing that you're speaking of, which is actually a little bit different. But by and large, what we experience in Hancock and Granville are very poor families who are sending their kids in the direction that they're traveling for work. Because when you have these really small schools, you often have employment deserts that run alongside that. And I think one advantage of this program is it will allow families to pursue work outside their towns or in neighboring towns and expand their opportunities for their kids, because then they can get them to after school, or they can get them to school in the town in which they're working. So I think for us in my district, and again, like, it's a different circumstance, that hasn't been an issue. Less than 1% of our kids attend private schools outside of TSA. There's a little asterisk around the TSA. But I think this policy, because it's only considering our operating public school districts, to me doesn't raise that issue, because I want all of our schools to perform exceptionally well, and I want that decision to be at the discretion of families who are making decisions about what's best for their families, knowing that we're already limited by being in these really small, isolated rural towns. So I see it as an equalizer, although I understand and completely agree with you that there's the potential for abuse. And then I also just wanted to remind this body that, as with all of our policies, we come back and reassess them and modify them every so often. So if something doesn't work, we'll know it. And, you know, like Kathy and Jamie said, I don't think we should just rush this through the door. I'm really glad to hear all the thoughtful consideration around it, but did want to remind people that it's not like we etched them in stone, and that is the law of the land forever.
Thanks, Stacy. Robin? Okay.
District that had this similar policy where they allowed students to move from schools within district to other schools, and it's not been my experience. In fact, it's been just the opposite. Sometimes allowing that gives a child a fresh start where, you know, their reputation is not there anymore because they've gone somewhere else. And so it has not been my experience that underserved families, in fact, a lot of underserved families use that to help their children with a fresh start. So I don't see it as an equity issue because of the experience that I've had with that situation. And in the policy, there's been no litigation around the policy, and I've had it for several years.
Thank you, Robin. And we're gonna finish up with that, because we have a lot on our plate, but we'll bring this back to talk about it again at our next meeting, and we'll just.
And please, district board members, email your policy committee members, and you certainly can copy Stacy or Kathy or me, because your feedback is always welcomed and greatly appreciated.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We keep plugging away and keep talking about it.
So the other policies on here are revisions. You've had a few readings. There hasn't been any feedback around adjustments. So it would be great, as we get student handbooks ready, that if the board's willing to take action on these revisions, we can update these policies for student handbooks. In regards to C9, the wellness policy, C20, student conduct and discipline. And what's the other one?
C22.
Where's C22? Is that in fact?
Athletics, clubs, and activities.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very much. Student athletics, clubs, and activities.
So we have these three policies, and we can, if somebody would like to move them forward, we can move them forward. And approve them tonight?
So moved.
Second.
So we have policies C9, C20, and C22 that have been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion on the policies as they are? If there are none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of approving the policies say aye.
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 Are there any?
Aye.
Are there any nays? All right, hearing none, the policies are approved. And we are on to celebration of learning.
Yeah.
Kathy, before you go on to that, just so you know, Nell is not from Stratford, so Sana should vote for Stratford tonight.
You did.
I did vote.
She did vote. Thank you, Sarah.
Can I have you come up? Awesome. So, first to our interns, I just can't thank you enough on behalf of the White River Valley Supervisory Union and frankly the communities of the WVRSU of just the work that you put in for us this summer. It's been a greatly appreciated effort and endeavor, and it's one that I hope we can continue to grow as an organization, both with the Leahy Institute and with the University of Vermont, to make this an annual happening. Our students have been told they're going to try to keep their presentation to around 20 minutes to allow you some time for questions and answers. And I want you to know, like you also tonight, just got great learning in regards to how democracy and local governance works and why it's so important in regards to the debate of that policy. So without further ado.
I know. Hi, everybody. My name is Kristen Andrews. I am the internship coordinator at the University of Vermont. I work with the Leahy Institute for Rural Partnerships and have had the great privilege of coordinating this internship program this summer. This is our third summer that we have piloted this rural internship program, and just wanted to share with you the goals that the Leahy Institute is interested in, and that is to build partnerships between UVM and Vermont communities by supporting high-quality internships for UVM students in those rural Vermont communities. And this summer, we had the chance to advance community schools, community resilience, and Vermont's economy through our program. I'm going to turn it over to Mary Schell, the community schools coordinator, and she'll tell you some more.
Great. So, hi, I'm the WVRSU community school coordinator, and I haven't had a chance to meet all of you, but it's really wonderful to be here, and I'm so excited for you to get to know our interns and Kristen. I hope as you hear the interns share their experience, you'll be listening for how their work has deepened our relationship with community partners, has helped to build their capacity, and has helped us to expand our understanding of where learning happens. I really believe strongly that this partnership supports our community's shared responsibility to create the conditions every child needs to thrive. And I've found it so fulfilling to see that the work not only is based on how we normally think of school and educating kids as being in the realm just of our supervisory union, to be much more inclusive and expansive of all of the resources and assets in our community. There's no going back almost from where we stand now and the relationships that we've developed. So I hope you're as excited about it as I am. And I do want to thank Kristen and UVM for all of their support and the financial support as well of the Leahy Partnership. All right, we're missing a few interns, so I'll summarize what they did once their slides come up.
Yeah, and so I'll just say we have 12 interns. They've worked as a cohort. They've all been living up at VTC in Randolph, so they've got to spend the summer here in the White River Valley. They're all working in different organizations that are all they're all supporting the community schools, and they're going to tell you a little bit about each of their projects now. We'll start with Gretchen.
That's okay. My name is Gretchen Green. I am the Data and Communications intern this summer for the White River Valley Supervisory Union Office. Some achievements with that and that was under Ray, who's the Director of Technology and Communications, as you know. The achievements with that was integrating data from Web to School to Alma in that transition, editing the upcoming newsletter, revitalizing school websites with the ultimate goal of enhancing accessibility of information through this new SIS to better meet the needs of students, parents, and faculty. And I look forward to learning more about data so that I can continue to develop my skill set. One thing, being here, I do miss being able to walk everywhere. I really like that, but I have experienced being in a more rural community, and it's not lost on me that it does encourage people to work harder, to collaborate, to be more resilient, and that is definitely something that I will take away from my time here in the White River Valley. So thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Calzone. I'm the intern with the Everyday Accounts Initiative, and I'm working with Anda and Michaela, as well as Dr. Ashley, and we've been working on reducing chronic absenteeism among the supervisory union, and part of our way to tackle that is I've been analyzing some data and looking at key demographics to determine if any of those are exacerbating barriers to getting to school. Besides that, I've also been working on developing a social media campaign that will go out educating families about this topic, and as well as like ways to encourage kids to get to school. I've also made materials for parents like this, it's kind of small here, as well as the attendance check-in form that will get used during conferences, and a little magnet that's going to go home with families. This relates to community schools because we're trying to reduce the barriers that prevent children from getting to school in the first place. This has taught me a lot as a public health student, and it's taught me that education and public health are more linked than you would anticipate, and it's so important because we are working with our most vulnerable population, which is children, and they are our future. The only way they can learn is by getting into school. Overall, I've had a great summer, and this was an amazing opportunity, and thank you all.
Hi, I'm Alexa. I was the Farm to School intern, and my main sites were here and the Bethel Elementary School. My hosts are Anna Hubbard with Vital Communities and Francie Slater, who is the Farm to School coordinator here. And my main responsibilities have consisted of weeding and watering both gardens and pest control, making improvements where necessary. I was able to make it out to the Stockbridge School to meet some wonderful parents there that are trying to get a Farm to School program going. And I'm also building a resource hub for Farm to School programs and doing weekly garden events with the kids, which is usually just an activity or event of some sort related to the garden. The main ways I've supported community schools would be building this resource hub, which supports the creation of Farm to School programs. There is a plethora of research backing physical and mental benefits of a Farm to School program on kids. I've been keeping the gardens in shape, obviously, and keeping them free of pests so that they're adequate learning tools for the students and they're still able to produce food when school comes back around. And then, of course, during my garden events, I'm able to connect the students with their gardens because a lot of them don't realize they even exist. They were just built this past spring. And connect them to each other because they get to have fun and bond when I'm doing my little events. And then a quick little story I have is that yesterday I was here early in the morning with Francie, and we were doing our regular garden check-in and also weeding out an area to grow a flower garden. And a couple of students from the One Planet program came over interested and wanted to water, so they watered and we weeded, and I could hear them. They were giggling to each other about what was growing. We have 6 watermelons, we have 10 pumpkins, I found a cantaloupe, and then they ran over and they were like, come look, you have to come count all these things with us. And we did, and they were just so excited, and it was exactly what we hoped for with this program, to create excitement and curiosity and engagement, and to teach them a very useful skill of growing your own food. And that's all I have.
Hello everyone, I'm Robbie. I was the intern at the Makerspace at the White River Valley Middle School. Pierre was my host, and my focus this summer was trying to make Makerspace more acceptable or accessible and create like a lower barrier to learning for people to, both students and staff, to access the makerspace. So during the summer, I started off by fixing one of the 3D printers that was out of commission, and then after that I moved on to organizing the space to make it more like creative friendly, you know, allowing a good work environment for kids and staff to make their ideas real life. And from that, I thought that creating how-to guides or standard operating procedures would be the best way on lowering the barrier to these somewhat complicated machines. And so I created how-to videos and written guides for the laser cutter, the 3D printer, the vinyl cutter, and the embroidery machine. But they also have sewing machines as well. And then I inventoried the makerspace. So some things I learned this summer. One thing is I worked with the Trails crew. I worked with Alexa and the Gardens, and then I also worked with the food pantry to create signage all around. So if you go behind the White River Valley Middle School, there's a plethora of now wood signs that the laser cutter was used to make those signs. And then I also learned how to use a lot of this equipment, which I came in with a little knowledge but not a ton, and so my learnings show that anyone can learn how to use it. And then I was able to learn how to be self-organized and kind of create a plan for this vision Pierre had of figuring out how to integrate learning better with the students and the makerspace. And I really liked living here in Randolph and Bethel this summer because it allowed me to show that each individual person has a big impact on the people around them when they live in a small community.
Hello, I'm Quinn,
Isabel?
and we worked as agroforestry interns for the White River Valley Conservation District, and we were hosted by Karen Gainey. We were tending to community gardens and the White River Valley Middle School garden, and we were all over the Upper Valley, but primarily at the Sharon Food Justice Garden.
Memorable experiences. Quinn and I loved the agroforestry training we went to at Columbus, Vermont, where we learned more about conservation assessment and that process. Kate really appreciated the work party at the Kichi Abenaki Garden. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here with us today.
Yeah, our work supports the White River Valley food system. Our Food Justice Garden in Sharon, you can come volunteer or just come pick up food whenever. We also donate all our food that's grown at that garden to the local food shelves. And our work at the White River Valley Middle School garden provides a space for students that might have behavioral or attention issues, and provides a place for them to grow and be creative with their hands, basically. And I'm from Randolph, so this is my community.
Hi, I'm Alex. I worked as a child nutrition intern here at this school and also the Bethel School to try and create and distribute 7-day meal bags for kids in the community as well as outside of the community for free, no questions asked. I have a couple newsletters with some more details if you guys want to pass those around. I do only have a few copies, I'm sorry about that. And then so over the summer, this is, as of last Wednesday, we've given out over 24,000 meals for free for kids under the age of 18 here in the community. And one thing that really stuck out to me this summer was the first week where the first day we did our meal service. We weren't sure exactly how many meal bags to make, because last week the average was about only like 20 bags per week. And there was a lot more advertising this year, but in a survey only about 23 people responded, so we were like, should we make 50, should we make 100, should we make 20? And we ended up making 60, and then about 15 minutes into our meal service, we were at half that number, so we had to run back into the kitchen and put a ton more together. We ended up doing about 80 that day, and that ended up being our smallest day. So it's really cool to see how it's only grown throughout the summer. And every single week I have people coming in saying how much this program means to them, so it's really awesome to see the impact in the community.
Okay, so our intern Ella could not be here. Ella worked on the Bethel Trails with Chris Fors, fulfilling the VOREC grant that Bethel received. The goal was to fulfill the grant goals in terms of maintaining and establishing the trails behind the Bethel School. Ella was involved with community work days. She got involved with meeting people on the trails and also working with folks on the trails and managing the placemaking trailer. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's used at events, and you open it up and there's all kinds of games and fun things to do. So every Wednesday at the Bethel Community Concerts, she's been instrumental, as well as the other interns, in setting up the trailer and putting it away and working on that.
Hello everyone, my name is Emma Walder. I worked with the White River Valley Herald this summer. My host was Tim Calabro, the editor of the Herald, and my focus was writing about one story a week for the newspaper. So I have 5 articles published in the newspaper so far, and I'm hoping to get some more in these last couple of weeks. This picture in the middle is my story that made the front page a couple weeks ago, and it's the one that I'm most proud of, so I recommend you check it out. Yes, and I really expanded my journalism writing skills this summer. I didn't have much experience with journalism coming into this, but I really quickly had to learn all of the little technicalities and things that go along with writing articles for the newspaper. I've also, you really have to think on your feet and ask questions on the fly, and you could go in with a plan, but once that conversation gets flowing, you have no idea where it's going to go. So learning to come up with questions on the fly, be reactive and attentive, ask for details, was definitely something that took a lot of practice. And problem solving. There's a lot of room for error. My first story, my recording crapped out, and I was way too nervous to talk to anyone, so when I had to sit down and write the article, I had to go through some creative workarounds, but the story turned out good, and I definitely learned from that experience moving forward. Just a big learning process this summer. And this relates back to community schools, because newspapers are another way of learning, and it really takes in local knowledge from events and key players in the community and shares it with everyone so they can learn something new. And I had a great summer.
Okay, Sophie's another intern that is not with us, and she was with the Bethel Library. And she was, she's an English major at UVM and felt that her experience in the library was real applicable, real world learning. She put together a collection, a library of things that if you go into the Bethel Library, you can borrow snowshoes and baking pans and all kinds of things. She did a lot of work on the website, and she also did the first newsletter that the library has ever done, and she held some tech help evenings and events for the community.
Hi, I'm Kara Shomer. This summer I worked with Bethel Strong and the White River Valley Middle School. My hosts were Mary Shell, as well as Rebecca Stone and Cindy Metcalf. And my very, very broad focus was creating valuable community connection channels. Some highlights from the summer and things that I worked on were piloting a community newsletter where different community partners and leaders within Bethel and the White River Valley could submit events and highlight things that are happening within their realm, to have one mainstream source for people to go to, as well as highlighting and coordinating pop-up events in the Bethel Band Shell before the community band concerts every Wednesday night. And so community leaders are able to come kind of show off what they were working on, how to get people excited for what they're doing, and also a lot of our interns came and showed what they were working on themselves. And now I'm currently creating a 6-week after-school herbalism program for the White River Valley Middle School, which is very exciting, and someone will be able to pick this up once we're gone and use it. And I think my biggest takeaway is just seeing how easy it is for people to get involved in this community and how willing people are once you give them the tool set to do so. A lot of the communication channels that we focused on building people were very receptive to them, and you could see the email list growing for the newsletter and more people showing up to the mixer pop-up events, and yeah, I learned a lot.
I'm going to skip ahead to the next slide, and then we'll come back to the questions. As we think, as Jamie noted, we hope to sustain this next year, sustain the partnerships we've developed this year, and possibly cultivate new partnerships. We're also considering to have a campaign to support a summer intern, and also include high school students, whether we're able to get funding so that it's a work-based learning opportunity, or work towards proficiencies. We also want to explore housing options. The interns stayed at VTC this summer, but we want to look at what other options might exist as well. And we're always open to more ideas. All right, so if you have questions for the interns, please feel free to ask.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you for all your work in our communities. And just an aside to Robbie, and I think it was Ella from the other slide, I was just at the trails yesterday talking to another community member about the signs. They were like, those are so cool, I'm so glad they're here. It was literally yesterday, so I just had to mention big thumbs up for those.
Nice.
Awesome.
I want to note, none of these interns are education majors.
All right, so Michael has his hand up, and then Stacy Peters.
Well, I have two questions, and we don't have to discuss them both now. My first is, how would we get more young men involved in this program? So just ideas that you have for thinking that through. And if you had a reluctant friend, someone who's on the fence thinking about the program, I'd just be curious at another time, again, I don't know how much time we have now, what it is you would say to them to nudge them in this direction. So you talked about things you learned, but my guess is each one of you had sort of a seminal experience, something that really stood out in interaction perhaps with kids or adults. It'd be interesting to learn more about that as a way of thinking about how to attract more kids into the program. So also thank you very much for your help.
Anyone have an idea how you can attract people to this program?
You go back to school to talk about this? Is there any kind of forum that you share with other kids?
I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I've been making a day in my life video for the Career Center to kind of show what it's like being an intern in the summer program, and hopefully people will, day in my lives are pretty popular like styles of videos, so hopefully people will see that content on social media and be like, oh, that's something I want to do next summer. She looks like she had a good time. And today's been a pretty busy and entertaining day for me, so hopefully people will see that and be like, yeah, I want to go talk at a board meeting.
I'm sure that's exactly it's going to attract.
Just show them the food and the cookies. Yeah, that might get them here.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I mean, I just think really playing into how grateful everyone that we've worked for has been, in terms of it's very fulfilling in terms, when you finish a job, at least in terms of what at least my internship's been doing. You work with so many different people within this, geographical area, and every single one of them is so thankful that there's people kind of tending to what they care about, and and maybe a trying time for some, that there's still people out there that care about,
Stacy?
Oh, just sharing the congratulations.
I feel like at this time when our local school communities feel like they might be under threat, it's important to step up and do work that's truly transformational, and I think all of these projects will done.
Yeah, I just want to thank y'all, especially Alexa and Mary. I have the pleasure of being a part of Forest Farm to School program in Stockbridge, where this lost green thumb had no idea in regard to combating bugs in our garden. And with Alexa, I didn't know you weren't an educator, because you certainly educated me on all our uninvited guests in our gardens and ways to responsibly move them along. So again, wonderful all y'all to share that. I appreciate all y'all. Mary, thank you so much.
All right, anyone else?
How much longer do you have?
We'll finish up Friday.
Friday?
Yeah.
Next week?
Yeah, a week from today. We have a week and a half.
Week and a half.
Well, thank you guys very, very much. Oh, you guys are leaving? You're not going to hang out longer? I thought this was the fun part. It's riveting.
Like 2 hours, 3 hours.
All right, and we are on. So we need to do 9-1, the discussion of the proclamation on. All right, guys, so we're on to discussion of the WVRSU proclamation on Act 73 of 2025 regarding the desire to remain a supervisory union structure. And we're going to do possible action if we can get this fine-tuned tonight.
Is that in the bold on the Jamie's report?
Yep.
Do you want me to read it for everyone? Would that help? The White River Valley Supervisory Union, WRVSU, being composed of the member districts of Granville, Hancock, Rochester, Stockbridge, White River Unified, First Branch, Sharon, and Stratford, moves to remain a supervisory union within a larger governance region to the extent practical, under the terms of Act 73 of 2025. The WRVSU will submit our statement of intent to the new redistricting task force and will reach out to contiguous school districts and supervisory unions to explore combining into a larger supervisory union. Our purpose is to optimize cost savings and efficiencies where possible while maintaining local democratic engagement, oversight, and accountability in order to achieve excellent educational outcomes for the children and youth in our communities at a cost Vermonters can afford. Thoughts, comments, any suggestions?
I have a minor suggestion. I don't know if this is an appropriate time, but in the second paragraph, it says our purpose is to optimize cost savings and so forth. We say to continue to optimize.
I like that.
As in, we're already doing it, you know.
Is there a way we can also include a community values piece? Because something that has been central, especially in our rural schools, has been this piece about community values and how that is strengthening the community. I don't know if there's a short way we can add that as part of the declaration.
Good idea. I don't know how to do it.
I don't know how we local democratic engagement. We could just put values in there. Or
That's what I was
just
thinking.
could literally just
Yeah.
put community values in there.
Yeah, maintaining local democratic engagement, values, oversight, and accountability. That sounds good. Yeah. So we're going to add the word values.
Community values? Is that what you're
Community
thinking?
values.
Yeah, community,
yeah.
community
Where are we adding
values.
So in the second paragraph, cost savings and efficiencies where possible while maintaining local democratic engagement, community values, oversight, and accountability. Does that sound good?
Yes. My comment, if I may, comes on the first paragraph, the word moves. This is our statement, so we're not moving anymore. What I would suggest instead of the word moves to is after the district names are committed to remaining a supervisory union.
Yep.
Yep.
Sound good to you, Jamie?
Yep.
So did everybody hear that? So we would go, the school districts and right after Stratford, it would say, and continue,
Are committed to remaining.
are committed to remaining a supervisory union. Instead of moves, it should be, are committed to remaining. Yep.
Yeah, I strongly support that because that also indicates that all of our boards are in agreement.
And yeah.
The next comment that I have, if I may, is that I would suggest that in the next sentence, it says the WVRSU will submit our statement of intent to the new redistricting task force. So I was starting at will and ending at will. Interesting. I would remove that language. It is superfluous. This is what we're going to do anyway. It is not part of our statement. So I would strike, will submit our statement of intent to the new redistricting task force, and will, instead it would say the WVRSU, I guess it's will reach out. So I misspoke. Stop at and. Will reach out to contiguous school districts and supervisory unions to explore combining into a larger supervisory union.
Okay, so I should just,
I
agree.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right, that's good. Anything else, guys?
Have you ever seen me look at a statement and like,
Is this something we're comfortable moving to accept with the changes?
I am.
Yes.
I think it's really strengthened it, the changes.
Yeah, me too.
I have a typo alert, sorry. When listing the districts, we have Granville / Hancock, but the others just list the towns, Rochester, Suffrage. So let's be consistent.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should put a slash between the two. Yep.
Good catch, Stacy. Anything else, guys? If nothing else, can I have a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept
the
this,
amendment statement?
with the amendments, yeah. What are we calling this? Proclamation. I make a motion to accept this proclamation as been amended at this meeting tonight.
Do I have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any nays? All right, so we'll get this out with the edits. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for drafting that.
All right, and then discussion regarding next steps by WRVSU to invite, collaborate with member school districts, supervisory unions. We have a Lincoln School District representative here tonight to talk to us. There was an email sent with an interest in talking to us about working together and joining our supervisory union. So, do you want to?
Yeah, Jeannie.
Yeah, Jeannie.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Albert, and I'm the chair of the Lincoln School District Board. And I'm really happy to be here with you all today. And I can't say that I made a formal presentation so much as I just want the opportunity. I really appreciate it to be able to just be in conversation about the possibilities of collaborating with you. We are contiguous, even though it's alongside Granville, so there's no direct road, but I know that doesn't stop anybody in Vermont. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so if you have questions, I definitely want to leave more time for that, but I'll just give you a really brief overview of the Lincoln District. So, and some of you I know are aware of this, and maybe some maybe less so. So Lincoln was part of the Mount Abraham Unified School District. The voluntary merger of that district included originally 5 towns, including Lincoln, along with Bristol, Moncton, New Haven, and Starksboro. And there was a history of Lincoln before I lived there, actually, of being part of, each of the towns had their own elementary school, and Bristol has a middle and high school, and there was also a union high school that all the towns that didn't have their own high school belonged to. So there was some history there. And then during the Act 46 period, there was a voluntary merger. And after a few years, for reasons I could go into more, Lincoln decided it wasn't a really good fit for us. There was a movement to close 3 out of 5 elementary schools. And there was an attempt to try other solutions to that. And then there was a further effort for the Mount Abe district to merge with the Addison Northwest district to make a much larger district, at which point Lincoln really felt it would have very little say in its future. And even though it wasn't our first desire to leave that district, we eventually felt that if we didn't make that effort, we could be in a position where we would have no say at all. In an 11-town, much bigger, merged supervisory district. So we did successfully leave the Mount Abraham district, at which point we did look to find a new home in a supervisory union, because that seemed like the next step in statute, and we did speak with Jamie about it and a couple of other SUs, but the state board, for reasons they alone had, decided to make us our own supervisory union, even though we are quite small and the statute would indicate that we were really big enough for that. We had around 185, 190 students. Without any help, I should add, but in any case, that was a few years ago. That decision happened in the fall of 2022, and we were to be fully operational and independent by July 1st, 2023. We had done a lot of advanced planning, even though that was not our desire to be a standalone district, but we knew it was always a possibility. So we had done a lot of advanced planning, and we were ready to be our own district. And we've actually done quite well, I think, under the circumstances, especially, but also just by being very, by really pulling the community pulling together, and having a lot of people in our, we have a very small central office, as you might guess. We currently have just about 18 total FTE. And that includes 3 in our central office. I think it was just under 3, but I think we may be up to 3. So we have a lot of shared roles. We do have a superintendent, but who also does many other things, as you might guess. Financially, we're doing quite well, actually. And our enrollment's growing. We operate, as I said, we operate a K-6 school. There's an independent preschool, cooperative preschool in Lincoln, but it's not part of the K-6 school. And we have a tuitioning program. We have choice. It was not surprising to us. The vast majority of kids still continue to go to the Mount Abe High School, although we do have some kids going to other public schools and some independent schools as well. Financially, as I said, we're actually doing quite well, and for the upcoming year, fiscal year 26, I believe, we do have the lowest cost per pupil of any district in Addison County. So I think we're doing, we're happy as we are, but we can see that we could very well be pushed into something new. We don't want to go back into a merged district. We find, when we spoke to Jamie and really thought about the possibility of White River just a few years ago, part of the reason was because, not just because really there weren't that many other choices in our area, but really felt that there was a value of community schools, of smaller schools. I mean, I really saw that today, just being here over this past meeting. I mean, it was incredible to feel how if this became something we could join with you, I think there'd be a lot of shared values. So anyway, that's what I have to offer, but happy to answer other questions or just listen, because I feel like just learning about you is really valuable to me too.
Sarah, I have a question too, but Sarah, go ahead.
I don't have a question. I just want to speak to this. I don't have a question. I just want to speak to this because a couple years ago, whenever it was, I testified before the Board of Education against this having Lincoln come in here. And I feel like I'm looking at this now with a different pair of glasses and a different climate. So I would say that my objections to it that I had a couple years ago have changed, and they're not necessarily objections anymore. And I would be into looking into this and seeing if we could do it. So I would support. I don't have the writing in front of me, but I would support looking at this to see. I mean, we have to do something. We're not going to stay the way we are now, and I would agree with. Jeannie, that I think we share a lot of the similar values, and so I would support collaborating together to see if it would work.
Our own terms instead of being forced to merge, and with what's coming down the pike, it could very well be that they say that's what we have to do anyway, but I think it's always better to have the conversation up front. Is there a certain process? Do you have to go to the State Board of Education to ask if we could do this, or is it, or do you even know? I just don't know.
My understanding in general, like if Act 73, wasn't there and that process wasn't underway, my understanding is that a supervisory union or two different supervisory unions can individually vote in their own capacities to say we want to merge, or we want to have this district join our supervisory union, and then there's a process going through the state board, and they normally would make that decision. I believe the timing of it has to be at your normal annual meeting. I don't know if there's any provision for variation, doing it at a different time in the year. But I also think I don't know whether doing it in at the same time that the Act 73 process is sort of underway is the right time in any case. But I just think having had those conversations and being able to potentially, if you are happy about that idea, potentially being able to communicate that to the task force would be at least one step.
So, yeah, I mean, actually, I really appreciate you coming here. It's really great to meet you, and it definitely sounds possible. It sounds like you definitely have some similar values that we have, and so is everybody at your SU or your board and are they on board, I guess, with this?
We've had these conversations, and they definitely feel that, again, as I said, we kind of like that we're able to make something work on a very small scale, and it's kind of sad in a way that the state wouldn't be interested in that, because it could be a useful model, but understanding that that's maybe a bit of a long shot right now to continue, they feel that the same, what I've communicated to you is shared. We feel like not only are there, kind of a variety of schools and communities that we would feel, pleased to be with, we think it's also kind of our best opportunity to remain as a standalone district. I think some of the, I don't want to really speak for what might happen in Addison County, but I think there's a bigger chance of a bigger merged district happening there. There's just more of an interest in that there. In the rest of Addison County, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Could you, I didn't quite catch the population that you had. What do you have a,
so if you go to this website that I'm going to give you, you
I
can
can just ask her though. So you have an operating K through 6?
Operating K through 6, and
approximately.
It's about 85 to 90, and we had, and maybe you had this here too, because I don't think it's that unusual. We had a fairly big drop in enrollment, down to around 7, but we've been getting larger and larger, and the projections actually are into the upper 90s in the next few years.
And then
Partially from, demographics and partially from just people liking to move to Lincoln.
yeah, and then you have full choice,
We do have
7th
full
through
choice.
12th.
7
And-
through 12.
And what is
Yep.
the approximate population there?
That is around, also it's around, I think it's around 95, but the
Just
only reason I'm
approximate.
hedging is because we have, and you're also familiar with this, I'm sure, we have a fairly good-sized homeschool population that moves in and out, or moves in anyway anyway. So
Understood.
there's a bit
Yeah.
of variation there, but I think the total is around, between the two, K to 12, basically, the total is around between 185 and 190.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure.
So, let me start by just thanking you for being here, because I have been thinking about this stuff for a couple months now, and there's a lot of sort of inertia, and you have not been, fallen prey to that inertia, and I'm grateful for that. A couple of comments and a question. The first comment is, one of the reasons why I'm glad that you came to our meeting is I think you have a sense now of how we operate. It is not that we don't debate rigorously stuff, but the level of heightened emotions that you saw today is about as high as we get. And that is really meaningful to us, that we are debating this stuff, but we're debating it within a particular framework. And I just encourage you to think about whether that is a fit for your current supervisory union or not. The next thing that I will comment on is, we did recently look at, I think they're called bylaws, but I can't remember.
I think they are.
And I would encourage you all to read that document, and not because it can't be changed, but because that is the model that we are likely going to continue to utilize. And if you haven't, yes, I am the geek in the group, among others, who likes to read these things. But I would encourage you to read it, because it does sort of create the framework of how we operate. The third thing, and it's actually not for you necessarily, is I am used to mergers of corporations, and there's usually a due diligence process, and I just don't know what it would look like for this kind of a merger. And I would be interested to understand what that looks like. Again, it doesn't need to be today, but we usually take the corporations usually take out the other person's car and kick the tires before the deal, so to speak, is done.
I appreciate that. I mean, and it's one of the things we did, and I think it's one of the reasons why, at the time of Lincoln approaching us, we shared some reservations with the state board after kicking tires, and frankly, it's a real compliment to the Lincoln board and Jeannie as the chair and Amy as the superintendent. I have been incredibly impressed when looking over their per pupil spending and their ability to continue to meet student needs, that they've been able to do so in a way that's been quite fiscally responsible. To the point where, when we kicked the tires, we were certainly being conservative in regards to making certain we were concerned about what that might place on resources for the SU, but they have certainly outperformed what we projected. But we would need to do more due diligence around that now.
They might be interested to know what our liabilities
Yes,
are.
of course.
They should come back during budget season.
Sort of beyond that, the typical process of due diligence includes understanding whether there are, I work in employment, so that's my frame of reference. Whether there are any pending EEO complaints with a particular corporation, whether there's any other lawsuits that the corporation has. And I know that this is different. This is district merging, so the due diligence doesn't have to be the same, but I think it's important for the two entities to get to know each other real well.
Right down to teachers' contracts. I
Right.
mean, that's
Teachers'
something-
contracts are a big
Right.
That's a big one to talk about and how that's going to work and how everybody feels about that.
I appreciate you mentioning those things, and I just remembered something else, which is just it's sort of in this realm, but I felt like I wanted to share, which was when we were in that process of leaving and becoming independent, and even though the district had been a school district for many years, so it wasn't like creating a completely new district. What was new was these sort of supervisory union central office type tasks that we had done on our own, although it wasn't like a complete mystery, but nevertheless we had to figure out some of those processes and how it would work. And one of the things, just in developing a budget so we could communicate to our community what was happening, I actually did look to both the Sharon budget and the Stratford budget, and the supervisory union budget. No, well, it was mostly because they were approximately the right size, and there was a lot of transparency. This was one of the challenges we had with both being in the former merged district and leaving the former. It was hard to get the kind of information I wanted. And I ended up doing some modeling just kind of based on, that didn't turn out to be perfect, but was useful enough to be able to understand what we might expect for our central office costs and what percentage that might be of the total cost. So I just had a memory of that, and just the fact that it was really easy to follow and transparent, even though I didn't know what all of it necessarily was, that really made a difference to me. So just on that level.
Michael?
I had a chance to be at a meeting with Stacy Peters and Sarah Root with Jeannie today at the RSCA. And I realize you're one board member, one community member, and a chair for whatever period of time. But just for the board, I can't imagine aligning ourselves with someone who is more thoughtful, intelligent, engaged, active, and on board with a lot of what I think of as our conversations. That is attractive to me, knowing that we're talking about a school system that's really thinking in parallel.
Nice.
So what's the next step?
Well, I mean, certainly the next step as a board, and I think that's the bigger conversation of 9.2, is that I have just recently been approached by another board chair that is contiguous with us. I'm not ready to state who that board is yet, about wanting to connect with Kathy and I in regards to discussions around there being any possibility of them, RSU having a willingness to discuss them. My sense is if that conversation goes well, we would bring them forward to you next month as well. The other district that did reach out is the Orange Southwest School District, which is the district just to our north, which is serves the towns of Brookfield, Braintree, and Randolph. They've indicated in their letter that they are interested in SDs, and I need to get a better sense from their board and from their superintendent. Is it focused on SDs, and we now have a proclamation that talks about our priorities of SU, of whether or not they had any interest in joining in conversation with the idea of the governance structure of an SU. I think we need to do that between now and September, and then certainly I think we would start due diligence if there's at least a straw poll consensus for us to put energy in to doing due diligence in regards to Lincoln District, to be able to provide and come back to you next month around the due diligence and background work around what that could look like for us as an SU.
Could we,
if we were to take on Lincoln?
When does your board meet? Like, so, would that be a good thing? Maybe if we, maybe even virtually attended your meeting, kind of.
We have been on break. We will be meeting again, possibly next week. It wasn't a regularly. We normally meet the second and fourth Tuesday. Yeah, so trying to think of whether that was. It's not. But anyway, so our next scheduled meeting is the 26th of August. but we may end up meeting next week to do some similar business. Well, one of the things is just to clarify some language about our message to the task force, like you guys did. We worked on a statement as well that basically just says if we have to change, we want to be part of an SU as a standalone district for similar reasons that you stated, to respect our values and democracy. So we might be meeting the 12th. We're definitely meeting the 26th, and then in general, yeah, the second and fourth Tuesdays. So if that's something that you're interested in, we absolutely would like to have.
Yeah, maybe at least we can.
Or virtually, yeah. We all our meetings are hybrid, so
Yeah.
so it'll be fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if what we need is some sort of, well, no, we can't take action on this, can we?
We can just do a straw poll, thumbs up, that it's okay
About
to.
continuing to pursue it, and you could
Yeah.
ask that the, SU chair and vice chair joins the Lincoln meeting.
Okay.
I would just say, just in general, I like the idea of us being proactive in this and reaching out to others as well as them reaching out to us, right? So I think the more that we can do ahead of this redistricting and present an idea, right, that we have a collaboration with folks that can get us close to that 4,000, that would be awesome. So.
Right. So do I get a thumbs up that we are looking to move forward with discussions with Lincoln? And Stacy and Kathy will attend a Lincoln board meeting, and you'll email us and let us know.
Sure.
And maybe Jamie, do you want to email us and let us know when the next one is? So thumbs up. Anybody have any red flags or anything they want to say before we continue forward? Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
And I'm interested in your last topic, but I do need to get going, so I hope you don't mind.
How long did it take you to get here?
Well, I was coming from Westminster, but normally this would take around an hour, maybe.
Okay.
Bethel is a little under an hour, so that's what I'm not absolutely 50 minutes. So.
Yeah, Livermore.
That's awesome. It's great to.
You can't get there from here.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Thank you.
East, west,
Thank
right?
you.
Meet you.
All right, thanks for coming.
Here, but you can get the buses everywhere.
Right?
Yeah.
I wanted to do a quick time check. I'm sure some of you are also getting messages from your boards. My board is waiting in there, so
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we do have two members of the anti-racism task force with us tonight. We are running over. What is the board's leisure on this? Like, what's?
Power through.
Okay.
We've got, yeah.
Yeah, if we can.
Let's just be aware of the time.
I'm totally
and keep
fine with that.
power.
I don't know what time it is.
I texted my people to hang on, but just letting you know. I would love to hear what.
Ray, are you putting notes on our
He
on the
is.
virtual?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And then,
We will be fast, I promise. We've been waiting and listening to all the beautiful things happening in our SU.
oh, Dana.
Yes, so you received a data report from the Anti-Racism Task Force, our first initial data report that aligns with our anti-racism policy. And we have two task force members joining us here tonight, but there's others also from the board or in the audience that are members of the Anti-Racism Task Force. But we have Dana Decker with us tonight and Krista Worm. And thank you both for being with us. And I'm going to turn it over to the two of you to give a little background in regards to the data collection and then how we plan to be utilizing this data to continue to improve our system.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I'm Dana. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the equity coordinator for the district. I have been with our district. I'm going on year 4. I'm really appreciative of all of you for the support over the years. I'm going to introduce Krista Worm, who's part of our anti-racism committee. She's going to start off by asking a couple questions, and then I'm going to jump in and talk about the work that we've done in our schools and what our future looks like. Part of the anti-racism policy is to create and continue this anti-racism task force and report back to the board with data reports every other year. So, Krista?
Thanks, Dana, and thanks everyone.
I am really grateful, but hopefully you know that I'm saying it quickly because I am also respectful of your time, having a wife who just recently stepped off of a board. So, one of the things that we really want to do on the task force is not only implement and support and evaluate the policy, but also to support board members, administrators, teachers, staff members, families, students in understanding and responding to questions or concerns about that. So I actually wanted to start with a moment for any questions, either questions that you had when you read the report or things that stood out to you that were remarkable in any kind of way. So I am here and you all are in the universe and in the room. So if someone who's physically there could help me look at hands or call on people, that would be really helpful. So opening it up, if there are any questions that you had, or if there's anything that you read in the report that was notable for you.
Of course, the report was from June.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So then moving on.
We'll do questions at the end.
Yeah, but like I said, we want to support you all, so that's why we wanted to start with questions in case there was something that had come up that was sticking with you, that wasn't just to out anybody of not having, just recently poured over all of the documents and policies, et cetera. Okay, so the next thing that I really wanted to talk about was just some of the things that we have done over the years since the policy was implemented and since we've been established. And we meet monthly. And really, when we started out, our biggest challenge was to figure out what our charge was, where did we fit, identify language, and we've done that with a mission statement, with physical plaques in different schools so that there is common language across the entire SU. We've also participated in trainings, one of which was really notable with Mia Schultz from the NAACP. In terms of what Jamie was talking about with regards to data, we created a bias-based incident report Google form that any member of a school can fill out, and then that has really helped us capture some more of that data. We also conducted a climate culture survey, and Dana will talk a little bit more about some of that data and how it's been being used. We also hosted and facilitated community circles. Dana is phenomenal and continues to work with all of the different schools and the equity team. I forget their exact title, Dana, you can correct me in a minute, but the specified staff members, so that there is somebody to ask questions of, somebody to educate, to step in, all of that. And the other thing that I wanted to really note is our collaboration with Burlington School District, Essex School Districts. It's in this work, there are so many people who are willing to share their resources incredibly generously and their experiences, and really work to create, to reduce that kind of sense of loneliness and isolation that can happen sometimes. So that's my quick bullet list of some of the really notable things that we've done over the course of the years that we have been working. And I'm so grateful to be and proud to be on this task force, and incredibly proud of this district for continuing to have a policy and to support it. Jamie, thank you. And thank all of you on the board. And you can find me. I'll stay here around for a little while too.
Thank you, Krista. Yes, so we've done all of that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about students, like in-house student experiences and learning pathways that we have done. The first thing that I'm super proud of, I'm going to talk about just quickly about 3 things, and then I'm going to highlight something that happened this year. One thing that I'm super proud of is we created a bias forum. And so what happens is I get that bias forum, and then I go to leadership, whatever principal where that, where the bias form came from, and we create a restorative process with the student that was being harmed and the students that were doing the harm. And so that's been really helpful. We're using these learning pathways, restorative learning pathways. So it's an educational system. And we've seen through that data that you have that there has been a remarkable amount of students who have not been reoccurring the racism or any protective category that they've done bias against. And so I'm really happy about that. We have also have created, and this is where I'm going to go into a highlight, this year at the high school in South Royalton, a student voice class. And in the beginning, there was a lot of learning. And by the end of that class, like I'll get tears right now. I can't believe how much those 6, 7, sometimes we had 8 students, depending on if the seniors were coming in or not, how much they've grown to the point where this is my highlight. In June, we did a conference at Holbert. It had over 22 public schools there and over 200 public school students. 6 of our students were in a Train the Trainer, HHB, and student advocacy and policy change within your schools. And 4 different students actually did a whole workshop with these students on advocacy around HHB. And because of that, they came back and said, you know what, we really want to have more of a voice in our school. And they created for the future, this community committee that they would like to be part of policy. And so this is going to model out the other schools that are in our district. And I'm just really proud of those kids. And 4 of those students showed up last Thursday with me in Mixed Booty, and we're at the Bethel Arts Center. And for 7 hours, we created a toolkit around HHB for students. And it's going to go out to all of the schools and all of the students across the state. They also created a 1-pager easy read around advocacy, knowing your rights, and how to be a bystander. And they also created a zine with a couple of students from the cartoon school over in White River. So this is just some of the work we're doing. For the future, we're hoping to get more student voices in our anti-racism task force and around the bias forum. And I hope it starts with that community connections team of students at the high school. Shane has been great in showing up for meetings, really listening, being very thoughtful, and coming back and forth and having a real conversation with the students. And so I can't wait to see what that turns into. Also, because of we're working so well with older students, like at the middle school, and even my new program that's opening this year, which is going to be focused in a restorative way, I hope that the students in like middle school and high school could start working with elementary students around this, around anti-racism work and just around the DEI work. And then we're just going to continue to use the bias form so that I could create. Oh, what's new also coming up this year, I just met with a couple of equity facilitators, that's what they're called. Our equity facilitators are in each school except for 2, but we're getting there. And they're going to take on the learning pathways work. And not only that, but they're going to create small groups of students in their schools to work with the younger students, whether that's through an advisory system or a mentoring program, but that's just all new today. So it's just constantly working. And I just am really proud of all of us. I just think it's been really great to be part of this experience. So thank you. That's all I have. I hope we were quick. Yes, questions.
Sarah.
So I think that the work with the students is really great, and I appreciate that and applaud you for it. It sounds really exciting. I can tell it in your voice and in your faces. What are we doing? So as a white woman who grew up in Stratford, and realizing that I have a lot of unknown biases that are just pretty much acculturated into me that, you know, I've spent some time working through. So what are we doing to work with our, I mean, this is not a slash or, you know, a hit on our employees, But I also know that we have employees who have implicit biases that they don't even know about, and that affects our kids and how we interact with them, how we ask questions, how we, everything. And so, is there work being done on that?
Yes, also Katie from Newton was today. We all met, Abby, Katie, and I, doing some summer work around protocols and paperwork. And we started an equity committee at Newton last year. It started in the middle of the year. Elijah Hawks came in and did a lot of training. And we focused a lot on the small group because that's who has the relationships with the faculty. And this year they're focusing on, first of all, all the faculty are coming together the first 2 days before school starts and creating a pamphlet, kind of like what are our values, what do we want to focus on. Sorry, I have a bunch of kids in the background screaming. I don't mean that. What we want to focus on in an equity lens, and they're going to continue to have these faculty meetings with the full faculty. So we train them. So Elijah and I met with them quite a few times. There were 6 people, including Barrett, and we trained them, and now they're going back to faculty. So that's one model. That model doesn't work in every school. So like I'll take the Bethel Middle School, for example. We have continuous, Pierre lets me come in at least 4 times a year to do continuous training with the with the faculty and staff. And also we've been having community training. So we have community dinners, free dinner, free childcare. Let's have a discussion in circles. And that's been going really well too. So that's not in the privy, but it's just, I really have been focusing on students too, because it takes the whole. So yes, it's happening.
Thank you so much for the work that you have been doing and for approaching this issue so thoughtfully. So I have 2 questions. Essentially there is an element, especially being raised in an area that is not ethnically diverse, where students may internalize racism and oppression so as not to rock the boat and so as not to stand out. There may be microaggressions that they may not pick up on, or if they, these are really difficult things for a student to capture and articulate, or for staff or faculty to be able to kind of say, hey, I'm noticing these little things, that there is a pattern. I was just wondering what supports or channels to report are in place that will support people feeling comfortable to come forward and not to downplay what they're experiencing, and to encourage students to feel comfortable about not necessarily fitting in with the local culture. And then my other question was centered around educating students on cultural complexities that exist below the surface. And so things, for example, that look like how family dynamics might work in another culture, or how they may, resolve conflict, and, maybe developing some kind of toolkit or having workshops or conversations around what that looks like, below the level that is just like, language and outward appearances.
Yes, and so I guess there's a lot there that you asked, and I had the first part, and then I thought about the second part, and I don't have both of them. So the first part was so we never shame students, right? Part of we have a faculty meeting every year around microaggressions and what they look like, and that's in most of our actually all of our schools. And it's based on never shaming, always having this restorative way to come about talking about it, because it's not a student's fault if they haven't have past experiences, or if they haven't been around a certain group of people, or if they have questions and being curious. And so we definitely make sure that I train around there's no shame. And then part of what I was talking about, the learning pathways, it's a slide deck, and it's just like either a one-on-one or a small group of students who I teach how to understand what has happened, the history of it. We do some current events. We might listen to a podcast or read something, or whatever that looks like, whatever the issue is, and it's never in a shaming way. And so I'm well aware of that, and I think that's very important because you have to build relationships with your students, with your colleagues, with your leadership, and if that relationship doesn't exist, then you can't do this work. And so I think that's another really important piece of this. What was your second part? I'm sorry.
Asking about cultural complexities and how how people engage in conversations around this stuff that exists below a surface level. So everything from family dynamics to conflict resolution that exist, below the surface of how someone with a less complex understanding of other cultures.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, just education around that piece.
Yeah.
Education around
Yeah. So what's really important is I'm going to focus on the Bethel Middle School because they do it so well. We advisory systems have these open restorative circles, circle forward, like every day, not like every day, every day. And so different things come up through the slide everybody sees, through a song that is being played, through something that happened in sports the night before. And so when that comes up, if we can't as adults answer it, the faculty is really good at saying, you know what? I'm going to get somebody that could answer this question in circle, and we have like a restorative process at circle around different things that happen within day-to-day stuff. And so sometimes it is watching a video about somewhere else around the world. Sometimes it is reading an excerpt from a book or listening to something like a podcast or watching a clip of a movie. I'm lucky to have Melissa Purdy in that school. She has many years of doing this work. And so it's all built on like the system that I've created within the school and the people that have come forward to do this work. And I think we're really good at understanding what is happening and then showing the student like, okay, so what you just said means this, and let me show you where it, like, for instance, quickly, I'm thinking about the swastika that was like really big at the end of the year. Everybody was drawing it everywhere. We had to break up to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and talk about the beginnings of the swastika, what it turned into during World War II and Hitler, the harm that was done, New York City and something that happened there, and then it went into current events between like honestly between what's going on in like Israel and Palestine now, and it turned into like this beautiful thing with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all broken up, and the conversations and the questions they had, some of them were like, I've never seen graffiti in New York City like this, or like I can't explain how it happens, it just happens day to day. And I don't want to keep on going on, but I have a lot of examples. We could sit another time and really talk about this if you'd like, but that's what I have right now.
Thank you.
Great work, thank you.
Really quick
Great
comment.
work, thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really quick comment. So Dana, this is my perspective, and take it for what it's worth, but I'm going to read something, and actually each word that I'm reading to me has meaning. And to me, it's the outcome of what the work that you folks are doing, which is so important. And the statement is, I am interested in sustainable, systemic, or systematic dismantling of systemic racism to get to measurable progress. And the measurable progress part of it is, of course, about taking measure every once in a while on what you're measuring. The sustainable portion of it is that it's not necessarily person dependent. So while I'm really happy and grateful for all the work that the anti-racism workforce has been, or work group has been doing, task force, sorry, it can't be dependent on those individuals moving forward. There needs to be systems put in place in order to be able to address this sustainably for now and into forever.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yes. And it's being embedded in our schools. It just takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And Eric, you and I have had really great conversations, and I think we're getting to that place to where our first I remember like talking to you first and like the passion that you had, and I was like, okay, like how are we going to do this? And I think the system is changing, and because Jamie is so great and like supportive and like really understands this work and wants this work, we are putting systems in place in our schools. And like I said, I could go into detail. Maybe we should have a community meeting about this and like invite everybody and not do this at a school board meeting. I would love to do that. So it's on the agenda.
Part of that group, so I really appreciate how hard they're working and the work they're doing. But I think we need to reflect back that this board is having this conversation, maintains these discussions, keeps this in the forefront. And a lot of organizations, a lot of educational institutions have really backpedaled away from these conversations. So I just want to be thankful and appreciative of being part of a group that's having these conversations and supporting this work. So thank you, everybody, for that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys a lot.
Bye, everybody.
Anyway,
Thank you.
We don't mean to cut you short.
Thank you.
All right, so.
Calendar.
We'll do the field day in September.
Okay. And membership board data budget calendar.
That is in your packet. Every year I have you take action on just our budget development and data reporting calendar. It's in your packet.
Before the policies.
And so this is just our roadmap in regards to how we go about the process of development of our budgets, both at the SU and district level, and the data reports that you can expect through the year. I'd just like for the board to take action, because then it's predictable and we're holding ourselves accountable to going about this
I move to accept the calendar as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Look at us go.
Skip.
Anything else?
We
So our future agenda items will be, we'll have the other school districts on here to talk to. We'll have, the fuel bids. We'll also have, we'll bring back the policy for school choice within the district. We'll have those things on our future agenda. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn so we can all bounce off to our other meetings.
So moved.
Meetings.
All right,
The meeting about the meeting.
meetings after meetings, yes.